There's this specific kind of existential dread floating around the engineering world right now. I'm sure you've seen the screenshot.
Oh, yeah. The AI design bridges that look incredible but, completely defy physics.
Exactly. Or these components generated from a simple prompt that are just fundamentally impossible to manufacture with any real-world tolerances.
And that skepticism is not just valid, um, it's completely necessary. I mean, if a large language model hallucinates a line of code, okay, you get an error message.
Right.
But if an AI hallucinates the load-bearing capacity of a critical part, the consequences are, well, they're catastrophic. Engineering isn't abstract poetry. It deals in physical reality.
Precisely. And for the last year or so, the whole conversation has been about these standard text-to-CAD generators, the kind where you type make a gear and you get back a static 3D shape, usually a mesh.
Yeah, static blob, basically.
But while the industry was debating that, researchers at MIT, in Faiz Ahmed's group, they quietly shifted the goalposts entirely. They realized the problem isn't generating the final shape.
No, the real challenge is generating the process you need to build that shape.
And that realization brings us to VideoCAD. This isn't just another generative model.
Not at all. It's a huge data set and an intelligent agent. They call it VideoCAD Former. And it was built to learn by watching what people do. It literally watched tens of thousands of users in Onshape recording every single mouse move, every click, every button.
So it's behavior cloning, but for this incredibly complex mechanical workflow.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. This is the distinction that changes everything, right? We're talking about the leap from AI as a magic wand to AI as a functional apprentice.
That's a great way to put it.
We need to analyze what VideoCAD actually is, why this whole behavioral approach just wins against the standard tools, and what those two critical comparison tables in the source material really tell us about where this is all going.
I mean, the difference for you as a user is profound. It's the difference between being handed a complex 3D printed statue you can't change versus being given the detailed step-by-step instruction manual to build it and rebuild it and customize it yourself.
That's a perfect analogy. And it illustrates the first big flaw we have to talk about, the dumb solid. Every engineer knows this term, and it's why those first Text-to-CAD tools just didn't get any traction.
A dumb solid is exactly what those early generators produce. It's a purely geometric shape, a mesh, a point cloud, whatever, that has, and this is the key, no design intent, no history.
And no editable parameters.
Zero. So if you spend an hour prompting an AI to create some complex part, and then you realize a mounting hole is off by, say, 2 millimeters, you're just stuck.
You can't just go into a little box and change the dimension from 10 to 8 millimeters.
Nope. You have to manually try to patch the mesh, which is a nightmare. It destroys your tolerances, and it makes iterative design impossible. It basically throws out the single biggest advantage of modern CAD systems, the parametric feature tree.
For any serious engineer, a dumb solid isn't a starting point.
It's a dead end.
So here's the VideoCAD insight. This is what's so interesting. The MIT team realized that for an AI to be a real co-pilot, it has to understand the user interface. It has to copy the human sequence.
Right. You don't just tell the computer, make a hole. A person selects a face, they enter sketch mode, they draw a circle, dimension it, and then click extrude cut.
It's a sequence.
It's a behavioral sequence.
Yeah.
And this model was trained on the logic of over 41,000 of those human sessions. It learned the visual language. It knows that when a user clicks the line tool, what's coming next is a series of coordinate clicks. It knows that select almost always has to come before dimension.
So the AI is basically watching an expert work, learning the clicks and commands, and that gets us away from that frustrating black box generation.
Yes, and into a visible, understandable, and most importantly, an editable process. That sequential process is what creates an output an engineer can actually trust and, modify.
Let's dig into that technical goldmine, the VideoCAD dataset itself. I mean, 41,000 videos. That's a staggering amount of data, especially synchronized with action logs.
It's a massive project. Every single click, every number typed into a dimension box, every keystroke like Shift plus S to start a sketch, it's all logged, time-stamped, and matched to the exact video frame.
And that level of detail is what you need to solve what researchers call the long horizon challenge.
Yes, and this challenge is really what sets CAD apart from, well, almost any other UI automation task we've seen AI agents try to tackle.
It's just a different beast entirely.
Absolutely. Think about, a typical web task, an AI agent filling out a form or buying a book online. The benchmarks for that, like MiniWob++ or WebShop, might need 10, maybe 15 actions to finish.
So the AI just needs a very short memory.
Exactly. But designing even a simple mechanical part, the average sequence length in the VideoCAD dataset is a shocking 186 actions.
186. That's a 20-fold increase in complexity.
It is. And for a transformer architecture, which is what powers the VideoCAD former model, keeping the context straight across 186 steps is incredibly hard. You're asking it to remember an intent from step 40 while it's doing something complex in step 150. That long-term memory is the big technical hurdle they cleared.
So the agent has to hold a working memory of both the 2D interface and the 3D object it's building all at the same time for minutes on end.
That's right. And it does this using behavior cloning. It's predicting the next token, but that token isn't a word. It's a UI command, extrude, plane, circle, plus the coordinates, the X and Y values it gets from looking at the pixels on the screen.
So let's use that to break down that first comparison table in the sources, the one that puts standard text-to-CAD against VideoCAD. The difference is it's just stark.
It really is. If you look at that comparison, the most important column is output type. Standard tools give you a mesh or an STL file, a dumb solid,
Right. And VideoCAD gives you a parametric feature tree.
which then flows right down to action horizon. Standard is one step, prompt, then result. VideoCAD is, on average, 186 steps of click-by-click generation.
And because it's generating those steps one by one, the intermediate state is visible. You can actually watch the agent draw the part instead of just waiting for some black box to spit something out.
And that visibility leading to that feature tree is the whole point. That's the practical win. If the agent makes a mistake, say it dimensions a hole wrong on step 40, you don't start over.
You just go back to step 40 in the tree.
You go to step 40, you edit the number, and the CAD software rebuilds everything from step 41 to 186 correctly.
Yeah.
That is the single biggest thing professional engineers have been asking for. Editability, not just a final unchangeable object.
But that does bring up a really crucial question about behavior cloning. If it's just copying people, what stops it from learning bad habits? What if the designer it trained on was super inefficient?
That's a very fair point.
Does the AI just become a perfect clone of an inefficient workflow?
It's a great challenge, and the answer is interesting. Yes, the agent is cloning behavior, but because the output is that parametric feature tree, it actually allows for optimization after the cloning.
Oh, okay.
The AI might learn a messy path to get there, but once that feature tree is generated, the human engineer can look at the steps and refactor them, clean them up, remove redundant steps, change the order. The AI does the heavy lifting of drafting, but the human still governs the final process efficiency.
So it's augmenting the workflow, not trying to completely replace the engineer's intellect. And speaking of practicality, they made the code open source.
Which is a huge deal, and it connects directly to a massive practical worry in this industry: intellectual property.
Oh, absolutely.
The engineering world is so proprietary, companies are, and should be, terrified of uploading their sensitive new turbine designs to some third-party cloud AI server.
So the open source part gives you a way around that, a security pathway.
Theoretically, yes. Since the code and the method are out there, a company could train the model on its own internal secure dataset. It could run on an air-gapped workstation. It learns your specific workflows without ever sending proprietary designs over the public internet. That is a massive security advantage.
Okay, we've made the case for why this is brilliant. Now, let's be brutal. Where does this system fall apart today? What stops us from using this to design a full jet engine next week?
We have to be realistic.
Yeah.
And the limitations really come down to its dependence on visual input. The number one bottleneck is precision, specifically geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, or GD&T.
Explain that struggle a bit more. What's a problem with GD&T here?
Well, the model sees the world in pixels, and it processes that information at a fairly low resolution, something like 224 by 224 pixels. That's fine for seeing a button, but in aerospace or medical devices, the difference between 10.00 millimeters and 10.05 millimeters is everything.
It's the difference between a working part and a piece of scrap metal.
Exactly. You're dealing with tolerances that are fractions of a millimeter. The visual input just doesn't have the fidelity to guarantee that level of precision. The human still has to go in and verify, and often manually fix, those critical dimensions.
And there's also the software lock-in problem, right?
For sure. The model is trained only on the Onshape interface. It knows where the extrude button is in Onshape. It has zero idea where to find that in SolidWorks or CATIA or NX. They have to retrain the entire model from scratch for each different piece of software.
When you look at the second comparison table in the sources, the one comparing this to other AI benchmarks, the sheer leap in task complexity it's staggering.
Oh, the numbers in that table speak for themselves. MiniWab++ has an average task length of, what, 3.6 steps? WebShop is about 11.3 steps.
And VideoCAD is 186.
It just crushes them. This is an entirely new class of long-horizon task for an AI agent.
And the table highlights something else, the presence of 3D reasoning. This isn't just clicking around on a flat website.
That's the other breakthrough. The agent has to understand the state of a 3D object. I am now drawing on this plane. I'm now cutting material away. I'm moving along the z-axis. It's maintaining a complex spatial context, which is just so far beyond simple web automation.
So let's pivot to the future then. If this agent is automating the design process, we have to talk about liability. If an AI agent designs a part and it fails, who's responsible?
The answer for the foreseeable future is still the engineer. 100%. VideoCAD is, at its core, a very sophisticated drafting tool. It is not a verification tool.
It just automates the boring click.
It automates the drudgery, yes. Mating faces, applying constraints,
Right.
all that tedious stuff. But the engineer's role is still focused on the physics, the material science, and signing off that the final design meets all safety and regulatory standards.
So it's like a fancy calculator. It speeds up the math, but you're still liable if you punch in the wrong numbers to begin with.
That's the perfect way to think about it. The professional and legal obligation for that final design rests entirely with the human. But this level of automation does point toward the next big step for generative design.
And this gets us into that idea of vibe lifing. If VideoCAD solves the clicks, vibe lifing seems to solve like all the paperwork and validation that comes after.
That's the vision, yeah. VideoCAD proves an AI can learn the process of modeling. Vibe lifing is the idea that this learned process can be merged with everything else in the design stack: simulation, documentation, even supply chain management.
So you could, sketch an idea on a tablet?
Imagine that. You sketch an idea, the AI agent gets the intent, builds the full parametric model, runs a basic FEA simulation to check for obvious weak spots, generates the technical drawings.
And even emails a bill of materials to the procurement team.
That holistic automation, managing the whole life cycle from a high-level vibe, that's what's going to compress the time from concept to prototype. It lets the engineer get out of the weeds of the CAD interface and spend more time actually solving the hard, physical problems.
The verdict seems pretty clear then. Text-to-CAD automation is not only feasible, but this behavioral cloning method is the logical and necessary way forward. And this knowledge is crucial because the engineers who master these feature tree workflows today,
they're going to be the ones leading the automated design teams of tomorrow. Absolutely.
they'll be refactoring the AI's work, not just doing the initial drafting.
Right. And for those of you who want to really see the technical depth here, we'd suggest looking at the generated dataset.py script mentioned in the source material, seeing how the MIT team takes raw click logs from a high-res screen and turns them into these normalized general action vectors. It's a masterclass in data engineering. It really shows you how much foundational work it took to make this whole thing possible.